Hi everyone, today I'm going to show you the Dino game I have made with MONOGAME and explain how it works. First, let me show you the game itself. So this is our character. It runs infinitely. We have our score up here. We can jump on W space or up arrow. And if we land on spike, the game stops. You have to restart it. I didn't add a button and the functionality since it's a very basic project, but yeah, everything stops when you die. So yeah, that's the game. First of all, we have a boolean called game is active. This is what I use to pause the game when we die. Let me show you. So in update method, we go through every spike object which has a custom class. I will get to that. We go through every spike object, which are, by the way, if it isn't obvious, these are. They are in a list, and in this for each loop we go through that list. Let me show you the list. As you can see, we go through that list. We check if the current item is between current item's X position is between 16 and minus 60, which means, let me show you in paint. Let's say that this is our game screen, alright, and this is our spike PNG. Let me make it a little bigger. So the position we are giving it is this place. So when we took the position of X and check it, it's the leftmost of the PNG. So we are checking basically if it's here, which is smaller than 16, or here, which is bigger than minus 16, because in both cases it is touching the player. As you can see, if it is bigger than minus 16, for example minus 15, it has a pixel touching the player. Or if it is smaller than 16, which for example 15, it has a pixel touching to player. Let's say the player is here. It has a pixel touching the player. So that's that. And spike object class has, actually I showed you what it has already. It has a y variable, x variable. Y variable is constant. We are not changing it. Actually, it doesn't need to be changeable. We can make it read only, because the spikes don't ever move in y axis. As you can see, they don't jump or anything like that. You can create it by giving it an X, Y, or without giving it anything. I never used this, so we can delete this too, but I rather keep it here. What else? Oh, so the collision works like this. We check it if it's smaller than 16 with the x-axis, x positions axis, smaller than 16 or bigger than minus 16, and if the player's position is minus 16 relative to its normal position. So we are not checking if it's minus 16, we are checking its relative position. What I mean by that is, so the player is here, let's say, and this is, let's say it's 420. We don't care about the 420 number, we care if it is 420 minus 16. Because if it is lesser than that, if the relative position is lesser than minus 16, then it is colliding to the top of the spike. So yeah, it calls a game ended function, which just makes game is active equals to false, which stops everything. What is this? Anyways. What else? So in update, well, actually no. Let's check how everything is drawn first. If the game is active, we have this function, and the delta time is, by the way, equals to game time, which is here. This basically is everything about game's current time information. As you can see, you can check total game time in and do anything with it. You can check its milliseconds, its hours, its minutes. You can check the current frames elapsed time, which means basically delta time, and take it in seconds, hours, any form you want. I take it in milliseconds and equal it to delta time, because I think delta time is way better name and easier to write than this thing. Also, the computer is not converting this double variable to float every time we call it, if you make it like this, because it converts it every frame, and that's it. Otherwise, if you wrote this to everything that delta time is used here, it would convert it every single time it is called. So let me start from here. If the game is active, we are adding score delta time divided by 10, and getting this string's length score, which is score, and the number we have here without the numbers after dot. So if it is, for example, this, the numbers without dot, we take this, measure the string, how long it would be, and take a vector 2 of it, make it equal to this vector 2 here. Then I have a position variable here, which is equal to middle of the screen in in x-axis and minus 30 in y-axis. And in here we write the string with this font, which is decided, which is initialized here. In MONOGAME, you have to create your fonts beforehand using contat mgcb. You can click this new item button and this sprite font button, write your own name, then edit it. For example, you can edit its size to 15 instead of 12, etc, etc. There are many settings you can change here. The fonts are created like that in MONOGAME. Strings are written like that in MONOGAME. So we have a font named font. The string position color is going to be white. I don't remember what was this. Is it written here? Yes, it's the rotation. Then the origin, which is the anchor point. What was that? Scale, sprite effect, obviously, and layer depth. This is how I write the score element. So next, in these types of games, I make the ground mechanic like this. I have a variable called start position, which indicates, if you consider that these are the tiles we have, start position is here. I have a start position variable, and for each tile I use a for loop and add for loops I times 48, which is because these are 48 pixel long, plus start position. So basically, if start position gets smaller, they all move to the left. And if start position is, for example, smaller than minus 100, add 96 to it, which can be any number actually. It can be 48 to 50, it should still work. This number should be times of 48, because a tile is 48 pixel long, and this number should be bigger than it in order to make it look nice and good. As you can see, nothing changes as long as they are in intended so this, yeah, does what I say, what I just said. But I want to show you something here. Wait, where is it? Ah, yes. I change the start position, and every time this draw is called, by ground speed, which is determined here because the spike objects, which are these, will move in the same speed of the tiles. So having a variable for it encapsulated in draw is a good idea. In here I do the same thing for spike. I have a for each instead of for, because it is not determined how many spikes we will have in the game beforehand, while this is determined. We have 20 tiles in the game that are looping. Anyways, if the game is active, of course, it is written here too. If the game is active, spike object.x minus equals to ground speed, then draw the current spike object. As a position, I use spike object.y, but I might as well use a constant called spikes y positions or whatever, and have it also read only float y and make it equal to 422. I think this looks better in code, so that's why I did it in this way. I am storing extra float per spike object, but it looks better. So here is, what is this? Oh yes, the frame duration. This is for this animation right here, the player's animation. If frame stopwatch is bigger than frame duration, we change the current frame, which only makes a change to frame name, which makes it tile 0, whilst it is tile 0 in the beginning. It makes it tile 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up to 11, then back into 0. And since, wait, let me show you. Since the names are like this, from tile 0 to 11, since the names are like this, by the way, these are also in content.mgcb here, from tile 0 to 11. Yeah, we change this string, and then sprite.page.draw content load. You normally should load these contents in this load content void, but since this is a very basic game and I won't really release it, it's just a game I made to understand MONOGAME a little better, I didn't really bother with it. So yeah, that frame name is used only here. By the way, we have the offset here. The player is positioned at 0 in X, but in Y 410 plus player extra Y, which is the offset. We have the offset is controlled in update, not in draw. Have I mentioned everything in draw? Let me check. I said this. We've gone through score. We've gone through tiles. We've gone through spikes. We've gone through how frames work. So yes, that was everything written in draw. The only thing in update are quitting the game. I don't need to press stop debugging to quit the game. I can press escape, or there is an exit button right here, but close button right there, but I still, this code exists on the empty project, and I kept it because why not? So if the game is active in update, I have mentioned the collider. We check every spike object, their position, and if they are colliding, we call game ended. But also, if the player press W space or arrow up button, and the amount of these buttons were pressed is lesser than the maximum amount they will be pressed, this works. Else if if the player is on air right now, this works. If the player is below ground, because these two lines here move the player to the ground, if the player is below ground, we reset everything. So what these individual lines do. There's a stopwatch to keep track of time, how much the player pressed the W space or up arrow buttons. We move player up 10 pixel every frame, plus the time that has passed divided by 25. So let me show you what this causes. So when you move the player minus 10 every frame, right? That would normally look like this. Player would move like this. But since we are adding the amount of time that passed since we pressed divided by 25, we are not actually adding, by the way. It's a plus, but since moving upwards is minus 10, since moving upwards is minus, this is making it smaller in terms of moving upwards. It starts as minus 10, but gets smaller every second it passes until it reaches to 0, since jump health stopwatch is bigger than max jump health. At the time it becomes 0. After that, we check if the player is on the air. It is. As you can see, players here. We have a falling stopwatch also. We track the time it has been fallen. And make it go downwards 5 pixel. Wait. What? Oh right, this one, sorry. Since this is the offset, if this is minus, the player is going upwards, and since we have a minus 5, it will start slow, then get faster as the time passes, and falling stopwatch gets bigger. If player extra y is bigger than 0, which means the player is underground or under the position we want it to be, however you call it, we reset everything. We reset falling stopwatch, we reset jump health stopwatch, and we reset player's position to back where it was before jumping. That is all, I think. Yeah. This has been Dino Game within MONOGAME in 25 minutes. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like if you like the video.